Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. So we talked a little bit about Reuben, right? Our dude who wanted to save Joseph from being sold to Egypt into slavery. We talked all about Judah and the wicked lineage of Judah right out of the gate. And we talked about Joseph, who was the favorite son who got sold off for pieces of silver by Judah and the leader of his other brothers. We also learned how Joseph got very prosperous, ended up saving the day with the family due to his vision and all that stuff with the famine. And he's got a Gentile Egyptian wife in all of this chaos. So let's keep it moving and see what adventures, share this tab instead, we have with this dysfunctional family. So Israel, or Jacob said, it's enough that Joseph, my son, is alive. I'm going to see him before I die. So he's all excited, and the caravan is moving over to Egypt. All right. So Israel, or Jacob, took his journey with all he had and offered sacrifice to God of his father Isaac, and God spoke to Israel. Now, it's also weird that he's sacrificing on an altar in Beersheba, because like Isaac never did anything there. Isaac did it in the north, and Beersheba's far in the south, but who knows? All right, but he is worshiping the God of his father Isaac. All right, and God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. Jacob said, here I am. I'm the God of your father. Don't be afraid to go to Egypt. I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again. And Joseph's hand, your son's hand, shall close your eyes. So when you die, your son Joseph is going to be right there with you. So God, remember, minor gods, demon gods or minor gods or the other gods, Shaddai, are attached to the land. So they don't move, right? But this God, the God of his Jacob's fathers, his ancestry, the God of Abraham, he's going with him. He's like, I'm going to be there with you in Egypt. Gods usually don't move around, but anyways, so God's going to Egypt with him. He says, I'm going to go with you, and I'm going to build a great nation from your people, and then I'm going to bring you back. So don't worry. And your son Joseph, who was sold off, he's going to be there with you when you die. So you're going to make it. You're going to see your son. Everything's going to be okay. All right. And then Jacob set out, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob, their father, their little ones, their wives, in the wagons that Pharaoh had sent. And they took their livestock and their goods, and they came to Egypt, Jacob with all his offspring. And then it kind of lists you all of the people in the family. Okay. And it's listing all the people, the sons of Jacob, Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin, and Joseph, land of Egypt. Here we are. They're listing the family lineage here, right? So we've got the sons of Gad, we've got the sons of Zebulun, we've got the sons of Simeon, we've got the sons of Levi, we've got the sons of Judah. So we're going in sort of telling everybody about the the lineage of these patriarchal 12 sons. And then we get to the sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, who are Joseph and Benjamin. To Joseph, in the land of Egypt, were born Manasseh or Manasseh and Ephraim. Ephraim is the half Hebrew son of Joseph. That's who Ephraim is. Okay. That's who Ephraim is. He is the son of Joseph. Let's apply that, because everything's a metaphor, right? Everything's foreshadowing. Everything in the New Testament, you have to understand the Old Testament because it's all metaphorical, and it's all giving you foreshadowing and characterizations and lines pulling all through the Bible. So in the New Testament, who do we know that's named Joseph? Let's think hard, guys. And who is the son of Joseph? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So these sons are Manasseh and Ephraim. Okay. Then we have sons of Benjamin. Okay. And we're going to go on, and we're going to go on, and we're going to go on. Jacob and Joseph are reunited. And I'm looking for something. He just wants to see his son's face and know he's still alive. Looking for anything important. Shepherds were an abomination to the people of Israel. They weren't shepherds. So they didn't like shepherds. They kind of discriminated against shepherds. So they kind of put them in this special land where they wouldn't be discriminated against, where they would be safe. And a whole bunch of shit happens, and the famine is severe. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Now, this starts to get janky. When the time drew near that Israel must die, and they don't mean the land, they mean Jacob, right? Jacob's name changed to Israel. So when Jacob, also named Israel, must die, he called his son, his favorite son, Joseph, and said to him, "If I now have found favor in your sight, put your hand under my thigh and promise to deal kindly and truly with me. And don't bury me in Egypt. I don't want to be buried in Egypt. Let me lie with my fathers. Carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burying place. Swear to me." And Israel bowed himself upon his bed. So Joseph promised to take the body of Jacob back to the land and bury him where his fathers are. This is important because we're going to catch the modern narrative today, right now. And after they said this, Joseph was told, "Your dad's ill." So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Okay. And it was told to Jacob, the father, Jacob Israel, "Your son Joseph has come to you." Then Israel, or Jacob Israel, summoned his strength and sat up in bed. And Jacob Israel said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz." That is also called, do we remember? Bethel. Okay. "In the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said, Behold, I will make you fruitful." Write that word down. I will make you fruitful. When I was in Bethel, in the northern kingdom, God came to me, made me a promise, and blessed me. This is Jacob talking, and said, "I will make you fruitful." That word fruitful is important. "And multiply you. And I will make you a company of people and give you this land for your offspring after you for an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, who are born to you in the land of Egypt, are mine." Jacob, on his deathbed, is adopting Joseph's sons as his own to share in the fruitful blessings that God promised him in Bethel of the northern kingdom. Just sit with that. Jacob has 12 sons. 2 of the sons, we know, will not inherit land. Those 2 sons we talked about last time were Levi, because they're wandering priests and they get a city everywhere, so they're scattered, and Simeon, who got absorbed into Judah due to their rabid violence and generally poor character. So now we're only going to have 10 sons inheriting land. So what does Jacob do? Jacob takes his grandsons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and he's adopting them into the birthright. They'll be mine, just as much mine as Reuben and Simeon. And then the children that you fathered after those two, they'll be yours and go with your blessings in your family. Joseph is not inheriting land, right? Because Joseph grew up in Egypt. Joseph is also going to be made fruitful with a fruitful bough. Remember that word. So in order to bless Joseph, who spent his whole life out of the land, he's giving a portion of land to Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. All right. They will be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. As for me, when I came from Padan is way north, like Syria, Mesopotamia, southern Turkey, like the land of the old land, the Noah land. To my sorrow, Rachel, my wife, died on the way to Ephrath. And I buried her on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Now, interestingly enough, we've talked about this place with Ephraim and Ephrath. And one of the biggest arguments that Ephraim, the son of Joseph, who gets an inheritance, the grandson of Jacob, who gets an inheritance, just as if he were one of Jacob's sons, okay? It can't mean Ephrath because Ephrath was a city that was around before Ephraim was born. So it's not like the city of Ephraim was named, Ephrath was named after Ephraim or named after that tribe. Therefore, they have nothing to do with one another. Well, hold on. We're good. It's not that easy. Is it that easy? It's never that easy. I am going to find for you. I have it here someplace. Maybe I don't. Let me look it up. We're going to share this tab instead. What does Ephrath mean? What do you guys think Ephrath means? Do you guys have a prediction? Uh-oh. Ephrath, also spelled Ephrathah or Ephratah, is a Hebrew word that means fruitful. 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 It's a former name for Bethlehem, where Jesus is believed to be born. And it is a city or area in Judea or Judah that was possibly originally independent, but later absorbed into Bethlehem. Oh, it's an area connected with where the Ark of the Covenant was brought to Jerusalem. This is huge, guys. King David, go all the way back to Psalms. King David dances and has the Ark of the Covenant brought to quote unquote Jerusalem. No, the Ark of the Covenant was brought to Ephrath, an original, possibly independent, but later absorbed into Bethlehem area of Judah that is connected with where David brought the Ark of the Covenant. Oh dear. Oh dear. And it means fruitful. Tell me again that Jesus came from the tribe of Judah. He didn't. He came from Joseph, son Ephraim. We're going to keep proving it. Not enough. All right. When Israel saw Joseph's sons, now he's talking about his dead wife and where he buried her, and then he gets cut off. Okay. He doesn't finish this thought. This thought is just sort of, as for me, and he's talking about this. What does it mean? As for me, I came from here and my wife died. And he's giving the whole story here. And then he kind of gets cut off because he saw Joseph's sons And so put a pin in that this conversation didn't finish. This whole bearing and Ephrath thing, it's very awkward here. And then he goes on and he says, who are these people coming in? And Joseph said to Jacob, these are my sons who God has given me here. And he said, bring them to me, please, so I can bless them. And the reason he didn't know who they were was because the eyes of Israel or Jacob were dim with age, so he couldn't see. So Joseph brought the two sons near him, and he kissed him, and he embraced him. And Jacob Israel said to Joseph, I never expected to see your face. And behold, God has let me see your offspring also. Joseph, they were sitting on his lap, and Joseph removed them from his knees, and he bowed his face to the earth, and Joseph took them both. Ephraim, now Joseph, you have to picture this in your head. Joseph is facing Jacob, Israel in bed. Okay, so Joseph, favorite, sold off for shekels by Judah. The fruitful one, Joseph, the fruitful one with the Ephrath tie. Okay, that one. He is facing the bed of Jacob, whose name is also Israel. So he's facing Jacob, Israel in bed, his dad, the patriarch of everything. And he's bringing, so they're facing each other, and he brings in his right hand Ephraim, okay, in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, because they're facing each other, right? So imagine you're facing someone, look at your right hand, it's towards their left, okay? And Manasseh, he had in his left hand, which was towards Israel's right hand, or Jacob's right hand. And he brought them near. So he specifically positioned them so that the older son, who is Manasseh, will be near his dad's right hand, because the first son, the oldest son, the firstborn, gets the double portion best blessing from the right hand of the Father. Have you ever heard that phrase before? The right hand of the Father. Where does Jesus sit? He sits at the right hand of the Father, because he gets the firstborn into the kingdom blessings, right? The right hand, the most protective hand. You're at his right hand. It's a big, right hand is a big thing through the Bible. Benjamin was given the name Benjamin to mean right hand, but all through the Bible, God's like, nope, left, 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 left. We talked about that last time. The right hand blessing is a really big deal. So Joseph is like, look, I'm putting my oldest son, because my dad can't see, so I'm going to position them correctly. So Manasseh, my oldest, will be right near dad's right hand. He can put his right hand out and give him the older son's blessing, and there's no confusion. That's what he's doing. Okay. And Israel, Jacob Israel, the patriarch, stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger. And he put his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his arms. So Joseph knew what he was doing. He knew that Jacob, Israel, in bed, dying, looks over and physically crosses his hands to put his right hand on the younger son's head, even though Joseph had brought them to the bed in the right order. So Jacob is doing something deliberate here. And he blessed Joseph and said, the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who's been my shepherd all my life long to this day, the angels redeem me from all evil, bless these boys. And in them, let my name be carried on. Let Jacob's name be carried on, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. I cannot tell you how important Genesis 48, I cannot tell you how important and ignored Genesis 48, 13 through 16 is. It's so important. We're going to go ahead and read this again. Okay. We're going to keep in mind the covenant of, actually, let's do that first. Let's go back here, share this tab instead. And let's go back through the covenant blessings, because everything in the Old Testament strings through to the New Testament, right? All the symbolism and all the metaphors and all the characteristics and everything going through goes all the way through. All right. So where did we start? Let's review. Abraham, right? Abraham encounters God, and he had his threefold covenant, which was the land, the lineage, and many nations will be blessed from you. And of course, that can't happen all to Abraham and his generation. So he takes the threefold covenant blessing and hands it down to Isaac, who was his monogenes, right? His firstborn, who battled Esau in the womb. And then that covenant of service and blessing goes down to Jacob, who is also named Israel. Correct? And then Jacob fathers all the sons, and then he gets to hand the blessing down to his sons. Remember that? To his 12 sons. And then we have Joseph with his magical coat that Judah and his, led by Judah, all the brothers sell him for pieces of silver off to captivity in Egypt and gets them back, right? And Joseph, favorite son of Jacob, the monogenes, firstborn, with him and Rachel, who died on the road to Ephrath, which means fruitful and multiply, right? It's like the blessing of the covenant handed down. Yeah, Joseph has two sons, and one of those sons is named Ephraim. And we are in the middle of getting the blessings on Ephraim and Manasseh. So let's go back, share this tab instead, and read this again. Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand, towards Jacob Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand, toward Israel's right hand. So Joseph had them positioned correctly for the firstborn blessings and the secondborn blessings. And he brought them near him because we just learned that Joseph has determined that he's going to go ahead and make his grandchildren inherit the covenant blessings just like his other sons. So these two kids are taking the place of Joseph's blessings, and they're going to get double portions because Joseph's off in Egypt and he's doing his own thing. So he's transferring all of these blessings onto these kids as though they were his own. Okay? And Jacob Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger. And he put his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his hands, because Manasseh was firstborn. So Jacob is doing something very specific here. And he blessed Joseph with his hands on the sons. So he's giving this blessing, right, through Joseph to the sons, and says, the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who's been my shepherd all my life, the angels redeem me from all evil, bless the boys. Now bless Joseph. Go through Joseph to the boys. And in them let my name be carried on. What is his name? Well, it's Jacob, and it's also Israel. This doesn't say, take the blessings from Abraham and Isaac that I inherited from the patriarchs of this covenant blessing and hand it to Judah. That's not what this says. This says, in them let my name be carried on, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac. So he's not just blessing them, he's handing down the patriarchal covenant to them. Why is this missed? There is no other blessing specifically on any of the 12 sons of Jacob Israel where he specifically names the father and the covenant of Abraham and Isaac, and then repeats the covenant and says, let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. Do we remember our threefold covenant? Let's remember. Let's remember what that part of our threefold covenant was. Let me find it and let's see if we can remember that covenant that God made with Abraham, who supposedly went to the elite Babylonians of Judah. Do you remember what the covenant was? There it is. You're getting land, you're getting lineage, and many nations will be blessed from you. You're going to be the father of many nations. And here he is. Share this tab instead. Passing that exact blessing, naming the patriarchs, and in them let my name be carried on, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. Why isn't your church telling you this? I think I know, or a plethora of reasons. When Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. He's like, whoa, 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 something's wrong here. And he took his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to put it over on Manasseh's head, because Ephraim can't have the right hand blessing. He's the younger son. And Joseph said to his father, no, not this way, my father. This one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on Manasseh's head. But Jacob Israel refused and said, I know, my son. I know. Manasseh, or he, also shall become a people, and he also will be great. But nevertheless, his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations. So he blessed them that day, saying, by you, Israel, will pronounce blessings, saying, God make you as Ephraim and Manasseh. And he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And then Jacob Israel said to Joseph, I'm about to die, but God be with you, and I'll bring you again to the land of your fathers. Moreover, I've given to you, rather than your brothers, one mountain slope that I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and bow. Wait a minute. I wonder. This little inheritance in Genesis, but people really don't like reading Genesis 48. Has anyone ever read Genesis 48 before? Because we have a land blessing. I'm giving you, firstborn of Joseph, rather than the brothers. So I'm not giving it to Joseph's brothers. I'm giving it to you, your descendants. One mountain slope that I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and bow. I wonder where that land inheritance is. You guys have a guess? I have a guess, and I will prove it the next time. That's the land in Judah called Ephrath. And we'll get there. We'll get there. I'll show you. See you next time.